I'm Frederick Glaysher. Thank you for coming to recall and celebrate the UN International Day of Peace. Here at the inscription to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. From the United Nations Preamble to the Charter. It was signed after 51 days of debate by delegates from 50 nations on June 26, 1945. Known as the San Francisco Conference on International Organization. It was held at the Veterans Memorial Building. As a poet with a lifelong interest in the United Nations and participation in United Nations Association activities, my poetry evokes the horror of the wars and upheavals of modern times. World War I, World War II, that compelled previous generations to seek refuge in international organization, cooperation, such as the League of Nations and the United Nations, to honor the great personalities who arose to labor on behalf of all humanity. From my poems Into the Ruins. Midnight visitors, mainly indistinct faces, circling in front of me in the abyss of night. But at times I see a Cambodian next to a neatly stacked pile of skulls, a Jew staring from a crack in a boxcar, an African, more corpse than man, stumbling through a desert that is as desiccated as the landscape of our souls. The pit of darkness, night descends. The almost inaudible groans of suffering begin to be heard again. Oh, damn darkness, what new horror do you hold in your hand? I clamber from the futon, crawl along the floor, groping for the door, for some way to escape the inescapable terror of the reality I cannot bear. But in the next room, too, is a black pit filled with all-pervading darkness. And the next, and the next, and the next are all like the torture chambers in this world. Dance macabre, 3 a.m. Specters invade my brain, wrenching me from sleep as violently as those tender ones in Assam were wrenched from life. I think of friends growing up in India with dirt blowing in through crevices of the walls, waking them up at night. Then the wall of my own room fades away and the dead drag themselves past me from Iran, South Africa, Lebanon. Camp 2, Poston, Arizona. Across the floating bridge of dreams, the scorching hell of people choking on dust, caged like rats behind miles of wire, miles of that damn fence, machine guns in guard towers, floodlights searching for the schemes of Tokyo. Like a bad dream that goes by, tar paper roofs blown off in the night, a place beyond description and tears. Gulag wayfarers, through darkness they come, through sub-zero nights, through snow and taiga, the shades of the fallen, their columns driven along by dogs, their hair and clothing covered by ice. Around me they gather and moan, speak, speak for those who are dead. Oracle bones, Tien, heaven forgotten, a century of convulsion. Democracy, a goddess of mercy engulfed. A road soaked in human blood, no medicine. All the long marches leading nowhere. One great leap forward, 6 feet under. Hundreds of withered flowers strewn before the decade of disaster. Cawing, a crow rises from a severed branch, flaps heavily toward the horizon. At a mass grave, gelid eyeballs gawk at nothing. Arms and legs twist together. Lifeless jaws gape in horror. Lidded torsos caress no more. Boys and girls, men and women, too young to walk, too old and weak to stand, dumped into a ditch like trash into a garbage can. Into the ruins. One. Smoke curls above the ruins of Lebanon that smothered the bodies of those who had hoped for peace. Behind broken walls, broken men and women seek refuge from a fury that stalks them as relentlessly as destiny. I lie in bed looking into the dark and see nothing but the vaguest fancies mankind has ever dreamt. Somewhere behind a broken wall, something begins to move, to assume a shape met somewhere once before. Out from the ruins, he steps and stands amid the scintillating dark, waiting quietly. Two, fire and smoke, and another street in another time. The Black Sea and the blackness of Trebizond. Churches burning, houses seized, women married to their children's murderers, and the marchings of hundreds of thousands to their death in the desert, stabbed along the road, shot in the back, dragged into the hills and raped to death, kicked from a bridge into the Euphrates, none finding it good to cross over, all dying of hunger and thirst in Aleppo. From the shadows we watch the efficiency of the formidable modern state, of the Committee of Union and Progress. 3. Coiling, swirling, swaying above our heads, smoke, and the stench of human flesh burst from the hellhole of Auschwitz. In the ghastly glow, the demons weave their macabre and haunting dance around the flaming pit. And like horrible gigantic flares, every chimney in the yard vomits fire tainted with human ash. Through the fence of the crematory, we watch creeping figures, silhouettes against the flames, turn corpses with pitchforks, pour fuel on people who still writhe with the pain of life. 4. 8:15. A clear day transmogrified into an inferno, into smoke and ash. Along the road he stands, his eyeball in his hand, gazing in horror. And everywhere we walk, others struggle and squirm and shudder, arms bent forward, skin blackened and peeling from their bones, kimono patterns burnt deep into their flesh. Human specters of human wrong, everywhere, nightmare people staggering in darkness. 5. Seen through smoke, past 5-month-old rotting bodies, Muslim militiamen brandished from a jeep Jawless Christian skulls on cudgels wave them with glee to taunt foes who had butchered old men and women, now dried to ash by the Lebanese sun. We moved past where there remains and out at the broken building, and those sockets that once knew life, that saw the one sun rise and set, stood there. I stumble down the hill as one lost in blindness stumbles through darkness. Hibaksha nightmare. Oh, image I cannot forget. Scar-fried corpse in the midst of flight, cradling a charred infant from the horrible on life. Carnelian blemish, 5 years old, and a street of Assam. His stomach slashed open, hot entrails hanging from him, the stains spreading around him on the ground, while flies cover his still alive and quivering guts. Vignette. The ovens burn 24 hours a day for so long the bricks glowed. More than smoke went up those chimneys. Wild goose pagodas. The sound of traffic ascends from Xi'an, reaching me on the hotel balcony 6 floors up. So Wang Wei once listened to the pagoda bell, awakened from his dreams to the day's demands, while Du Fu climbed the many stairs, finding peace and acceptance of his lot. Suffering is nothing new to humankind, yet I can never leave it at that. Who can fail to feel the pain of a human face? A little girl alongside the road, 1994. Outside Dunhuang, our bus pulled over to while away some time before the next appointed hour. Talking, laughing, enjoying the desert. A new sight came up into view. A 5 or 6 year old girl. Uyghur, the bus driver said, glancing back at us. Plaited hair, or was it straight? An embroidered country coat, like a ghost out of the ravines, walking alone in front of the bus. Far from the city in the outskirts. Could she be lost, be worried? Isn't she in danger all alone? Everyone was concerned, far from home. I, with my elementary Chinese, was urged to speak with her, so I clambered down from the bus, waving, smiling, asking in poor Chinese, "Are you okay? Lost? Your family? Where is she now? We are still concerned." Woodrow Wilson, Memorial Day, 1919. He had sent them to the fields of France to fight in the war to end all wars. And he had come to dedicate a portion of that field, hoping the mothers of the nations would never be called upon again to sacrifice. Bareheaded in the sun, he spoke, the dust of the new cemetery unsettled by the feet of thousands, many of whom were wounded soldiers, saying so long to all the boys, grappling to understand a little more. From the hillside of acacia groves, he gazed down the valley to Paris, saw the stream of civilization culminating in that moment. Knew it was right and true and could not fail, the great instrument of the League of Nations. Eleanor Roosevelt. Thousands wrote, amended, quibbled over wording and content, upheld the traditions of East and West, of Confucius and Aquinas, defended individual and social rights. She was not alone, but she alone had the vision, the drive, the determination to create out of lesser loyalties, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Magna Carta of all mankind. Albert Einstein, because he changed our thinking, he knew our thinking has to change. From stopping at national borders to a new kind of loyalty, holding relative the bellicose dimension of hatred, extending throughout the continuum of time, given a mass beyond its due. Though ridiculed and heckled, he gauged the pressure of the fear the jingoes misjudged with their outdated thinking. And when his efforts proved not to have been in vain, all humankind will admire the earthly share of his wisdom. Arnold Toynbee. The ancient Greeks had their Thucydides, the factions of Athens and Sparta, Herodotus' reversal of fortune, Plutarch's lives paralleling Rome, Sallust on demagogues, Tacitus on barbarians, Xenophon, Polybius, Augustin Caesar, Josephus, Ibn Khaldun. England's Gibbon opened the door in 1914. World War I challenging Toynbee's complacency. His friends gone, the West too could fall. Ever deeper into the history of the soul sent him searching for laws, universals, seeking a vision of unity and love. Mother Earth has a great historian. Dag Hammarskjöld, the second Secretary General of the United Nations. No more of these sad tones of fear and the scourge of war, of chaos and anarchy, of the passions of humankind. Though the first movements wander among the dark and threatening conflicts of Beethoven's Ninth, the ode to joy shall come. All the millions will unite as brothers, surrender to the way of peace, to a higher synthesis of joy. Blue helmets, in memory of Ralph Bunche, who was the chief United Nations negotiator during the Suez Canal crisis, and Brian Urquhart, who was instrumental to the development of the blue helmets. Champions of peace beyond Westphalia, a new generation of heroes, peacekeepers, young men and women around the world, serving a new vision, new methods, new rules, wisdom and principle, not vanity, ambition, curtailing the depths of self-destruction. What are we waiting for? We must cooperate or perish. War begets war. Let peace beget peace. From my book-length narrative poem, The Bower of Nil, Peter Marsh, the main character, is a philosopher struggling late at night with his soul, and his grief after the murder of his wife, reflecting on modern life and international organization. Peter stood and moved to the north window, straining to look out across to the east, checking for the first crimson rays of dawn. What tragedy, how much waste, he lamented. 10 to 15 million swept away along with the seemingly endless rule of the Romanovs, Habsburgs, Hohenzollerns. The world shrieked under the burden of birth. World War II dwarfed the first great shock, leaving 50 to 60 million dead, their corpses strewn around the globe. Oh, God, Peter thought, if you exist, stop it. Why should so many innocents suffer? Like Cassandra gazing out from the citadel, he shuddered in the gray morning light, overwhelmed by terror of foresight. Standing there, he recited Shelley's words from Prometheus and Bound. Reassume an empire over the disentangled doom. The hubris of science hurtles along toward cataclysms of its own making. Nothing could be further from the truth, from Tennyson's vision of the federation of the world. For all its decadence, democracy has permitted freedom of worship, has freedom of individual conscience, groping, faltering. It moves towards a wider definition of loyalty. At least it has formed a bridge between the old world and the one still forming. Uncouth, but not barbaric, democracy stands for a universal vision of humankind wrestling with destiny, laying the foundations of world peace, blending the nations into harmony, a discredited yet immortal system. Out of each cataclysm, democracy strains to raise the millions toward greater affiliation, freedom, peace. Passage to India, earth span, God's purpose from the first, oceans crossed, the lands and races welded together. I sing a new worship. Away, O soul! Democracy in some form or another, which the people shall freely choose, will outlive or crush communism. Somehow the challenge will be met and won. Spengler's Prussian socialism ended in catastrophe for all Europe, exposing the barbaric ethic of Darwin. Sooner or later, the time will come, regalvanizing the United Nations, formed to crush the onslaught of fascism, empowering the will to implement fully and unreservedly the UN Charter, a return to the Wilsonian ideals, to preserve what civilization holds sacred. Toynbee was right, ever since Sumer. Caesar's legions will finally serve all nations. Then swords shall be beaten into plowshares. Democracy yield its choicest fruit. Slowly, gradually, a marvelous world civilization will develop, with a world executive supported by an international force, guided by the adjudications of a supreme tribunal, serving the interests of all nations, implementing the decisions of a global legislature, freely elected by all the inhabitants of the diverse but unified planet, mirroring, however faintly, his kingdom. He dropped his leg back down, gazed out the window at the few clouds in the west, reflecting the morning dawn. Yes, he mused, somehow hatred shall be overcome by cataclysm, if not by abiding, self-sacrificing love. A world language will enable people to pass from one country to another, facilitate greater understanding, greater cooperation toward common goals. A world currency and economy will create, as networks of communication and travel are already creating, a world opinion intolerant of aggression against any nation. Racism and extreme nationalism will lose their godlike stature before the beautiful diversity of humankind. A wider group feeling enrich the older ones. A culture of infinite splendor and variation will gradually bloom throughout the continents and archipelagos out of the morass of a dark, enlightened age. Religion and science will be reconciled, harmonizing both sides of human nature for the benefit of every nation, for the augmentation of the spiritual and physical development of every region of the planet, for the stimulation of human capacity in every walk of life. The ideals of East and West shall blend, liberate from the miseries of war, make force the servant of justice, history attain the telos of its course.